Welcome to another episode of Sylvie and Diddy React. I'm Sylvie, and today I'm going to be flying solo again. Diddy will join us as soon as he can, but for this episode, I'm going to be reacting to the idea of price controls. Before I get into that, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. The reason I bring up price controls is because that's a topic that has kind of taken the population by storm, especially in the recent elections, where President or Vice President Harris, the presidential candidate for the Democrats, suggested that one of the ways to beat inflation and high prices at the grocery store was the idea of price controls. Now, price controls seem like a good idea until you actually enact it. And a lot of that has to do with human nature. Theoretically, if you prevent people from charging too much money, then people can purchase an item for that amount. But that tends to ignore both supply and demand and the two parties engaged in that interaction. Whereas consumers might love to have cheaper goods and they'll purchase them, the people that sell those goods may not be as willing, and there will be consequences. Well, in order to kind of solidify this idea and to make it concrete, I'm going to show a video and react to it, which is a historical situation where a government tried to do price controls and they failed miserably. So the video we're going to react to is a video from Reason TV, and it's talking about the unintended consequences of price control.
And now, great moments and unintended consequences. Part 1. Siege Sales. The year, 1585. The problem? The Spanish army is besieging Antwerp. Shelling approaching merchant ships and causing food prices inside the city to rise. The solution? Enact strict price controls on food. Sounds like a great idea. With the best of intentions, what could possibly go wrong? It turns out merchants don't like risking their live ships and cargo, especially when their goods fetch the same prices at ports without incoming cannon fire. Artificially low prices also fuel demand, causing food supplies inside the city to plummet. It wasn't long before Antwerp surrendered, given the city government blockaded itself far better than any army ever could. Part
So just to go over what that story told, with the Siege of Antwerp, you have increasing prices because goods and services are not getting into the city itself. But there's that fear, and that fear exists where opportunistic people are going to charge more in order to have these basic foods that everywhere else would be cheap and affordable. The problem comes when we assume that there isn't a context for those problems. When we try to ameliorate high prices, oftentimes that ignores why those prices are high in the first place. In the Siege of Antwerp, it's obviously because there's greater risk. Given two ports, as the video demonstrated, if you get the exact same price for getting shot at versus not getting shot at, you're going to prefer a less dangerous or costly port to sail into. The increase in price demonstrates that you're willing to pay that extra amount of money and entice people to help you. When it costs more to help somebody, they should also receive more in order to help. Just from a practical standpoint, it doesn't work when you try price controls, when you try to force sellers to sell, there's always going to be some sideway a loophole that producers are going to use. Same thing happened um, in Colombia or in Venezuela, actually, when there were price controls on bread. You could only sell the bread for so much money. And so people actually started just putting water in the bags so that the weight of the loaf of bread was the same, even though they weren't giving you the same amount of product. The same thing happens here in the United States when people were talking about, and specifically Vice President Harris was talking about enacting these price controls. That ignores the consequence of trying to keep the demand the same, is that the supply is not going to be there. People are not going to do more when the price doesn't match the increase in cost. Kind of just as a concluding thought of generally why price control doesn't work is that prices are information as well as a medium of exchange. Money is not just a way that I purchase something and you sell me something, but it's information. It tells me how costly that thing is to get. When the price of bread increases, that tells me that either more people are seeking this or there's less of it available, and I need to respond accordingly. Maybe I'll get rice, maybe I'll eat oatmeal more and less bread. Or if I really value that bread, I'm going to pay that price. But you can't get around that just by saying we're going to cap that price, because that leads to the unintended consequence of people will continue to purchase that bread or that item without thought to the real effects. If there was disease of wheat and there's just not enough bread, there are going to be shortages. If you are forcing companies to take a loss, they're going to not sell that bread. They're going to find alternative uses for their products. There will always be a consequence, and there will always be unintended consequences when you try to mess with the information system that is in our money. Well, thanks for listening to this episode. I hope that you enjoy it. If you want to see more like this, or you want to see me respond to something that you're interested in, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and email Didy or I, and our emails will be in the description below, so I can respond to that maybe in a next episode. Have a good day.